Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to make a video that I've kind of been going back and forth on if I wanted to make for a while, but I figured I'd make as well. And that's 5 bands. No. Hey guys, it's Derek again. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Stopping. Hey guys, it's Derek again, coming back out of hiding for another video. Today I decided to make a video talking about 5 of my favorite concerts that I've been to over the years. And I just recently decided to make this video because I'm really bored. It's the middle of Saturday and I got nothing better to do, so I figured I might as well. So just a heads up, I'm not putting these in any particular order, but my criteria is going to be how good the actual performances are of these bands and the shows in general, and how memorable, I guess, they are for me looking back at them. That's really the 2 big things for me. If I think of anything else, I'll bring it up as we go along, but let's get into it. So the first concert I'm going to mention, and this is really the first big concert that I really went to, was in 2019. I went to Albuquerque for, like I said, my first show, which would have been Iron Maiden, and it set the bar pretty high for what I expected a live show to be, especially for a band that's been around for as long as them and as old as they are. I loved every second of it. I loved it so much, in fact, that I saw them again a couple years later on the Legacy of the Beast tour, which the first time I saw them, Senjutsu hadn't been out yet, so they were playing a lot of the older stuff, which I expected to begin with. But the second time I saw them, was it 3 years later? I saw them in El Paso, Texas, and they were doing the Legacy of the Beast tour to promote Senjutsu, the newest album that had come out at the time. That was an awesome show as well. It was indoor that time. The first time I saw them back in Albuquerque was an outdoor show at the Isleta Amphitheater, and I had so much fun. I never smelt so much weed before in my life. I don't think ever since then, which says a lot, honestly. But they had a band called, what was the band? The Raven? I think it was the Raven Age, which I thought they're solid. I don't really know much about them since then or a little after, but I how do I say this? I mean, they were a good opening band, but I can't say much past that cuz I don't really know the music super well, so I can't really comment on it too much. But overall, for a first concert, that set the bar really high, and it's still a favorite of mine to this day. Show number 2 that I'm going to mention would probably be... Sorry about that. It would probably be... I saw in August of 2021, I went to El Paso to go and see Megadeth. And it was Megadeth, Lamb of God, Trivium, and Hatebreed. And that was a really awesome show. Was it the first show I went to after COVID? I can't remember if it was the first or the second. I want to say it was the first. But that wait was so worth it because it was originally supposed to be, I think it was in the middle of 2020 or late 2020, but obviously because of the pandemic, they ended up having to push the gig back to next year. And In Flames was actually supposed to be the opener instead of Hatebreed, which I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get to see them even to this day, but Hatebreed was okay. I was kind of underwhelmed with them, but then again, I'm not the most familiar with their music, so maybe that's an error on my part. They were solid. They were pretty loud too. Probably the loudest band out of the 4 that were there. Trivium was actually really good. I saw them a second time, excuse me, not long after that, the next year, which was the Iron Maiden show that I mentioned previously in El Paso. So that was the second time I saw them. It was Iron Maiden and Trivium touring together, and that was awesome. It was my first time seeing Lamb of God as well, which, if I'm being honest, I was kind of, at the time, more excited to see them than I was Megadeth, because I wasn't as huge of a Megadeth fan at the time, at least compared to now, but I figured I would go anyways. Just, it's a show nearby, and I figured I might as well when I have the chance, And even since the show, I've gone on to enjoy Megadeth a lot more since then, and they've definitely become a personal favorite of mine over the years since. But the biggest reason this is a big show for me personally, it's more of a sentimental value thing for me, and that's I met my girlfriend who you guys may or may not know as Elven Queen of Metal, who makes a lot of great content. I think you should check her out. I love her so much. I'll put a link in the description to her channel if you guys are curious enough. I was actually in a few of her recent videos when we took a trip to Nashville, so there's something for you guys to look out for. But seriously though, the whole night was a ton of fun, and I would do it again if I could. Show number 3, I feel like at this point, the last 3 that I'm going to mention could kind of be interchanged. Because those first 2 I mentioned, the Maiden show and then the Megadeth show, were like the 2 top favorites for me personally. Number 3 would be last year, or a little over a year ago, I think, yeah. I saw Lamb of God and Mastodon co-headlining together. And Mastodon was really the one that stole the show for me personally. Because for those of you that may not know or didn't go to any of the shows, Mastodon and Lamb of God released their albums Leviathan and Ashes of the Wake. It would have been 20 years ago from that tour, so 2004. Both of their albums released on the same day, and those 2 albums to me are like essential 2000s metal albums, if I'm being honest. Ashes of the Wake might be my favorite. I'm not too sure, but Leviathan I know is pretty close behind it. But man, they played both of those albums in its entirety, and then both bands had an encore of I think like 2 or 3 songs. I know Mastodon, they did all of Leviathan, and then they played More Than I Could Chew, which was on the newest album, Hushed and Grim. And then they played, I want to say it was Steam Breather was the last song they played. I'd have to check the set list online, but I'm pretty positive that's what it was. Then Lamb of God came on. They were the last band of the night, and they played all of Ashes of the Wake front to back, just like Mastodon did with Leviathan. And that was awesome. Their encore was also Walk With Me in Hell and Redneck. I know Redneck, they've ended it every time I've seen them. I want to say there was a 3rd song in their encore. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it was a great show, honestly. There was also Kerry King. His band was one of the openers, and they were okay. I wasn't super huge on them. I love Slayer, but if I wanted to listen to anything he does, I'd just listen to Slayer. And then the opening band of the whole thing was are they deathcore? I'm not sure if they're deathcore or not. Malevolence from the UK, and those guys are awesome. I thought they were really good live. I actually ended up getting to meet a few of the guys after the show at their merch booth, and they were super friendly. They were really cool people, and hopefully I can see those guys again sooner or later, whenever it may be. I think the biggest reason why this is such a memorable show to me, besides Mastodon and Lamb of God playing their 2 biggest albums front to back, was also because it was my first ever metal show in a mosh pit, and everyone told me, like, man, you picked a fucking juggernaut of a show to be your first show in a mosh pit. And I remember the next day afterwards, because I went with a work buddy of mine at the time and one of his friends, and once we got back home that night, I went to bed and I had to work, or no, I had the day off the next day. It was 2 days after the show. I went back to work, and I was like, man, I'm still sore. My whole body was so sore, but I always joke with people, like, I would still do it again if I could, But that's just me. I know not everyone likes to mosh. It's a bit intimidating, but for me, I love it. It's so fun to me. So show number 4 for me is one that I initially wasn't thinking I was going to enjoy as much as I did. And it was with my bassist and my personal band, Stony Bluefish. We went to El Paso to go and see Tool. And they played about, I want to say it was around 2 hours. The biggest thing for me on this show was I had always known about Tool, and I had always appreciated them. I had obviously known their big songs. I had known Sober, 46 and 2, Schism, basically all the big songs that most people who aren't Tool fans would know. So I went into the show kind of with medium, like modest expectations. And I was freaking blown away, honestly. When I first went to that show, and I think I might still stand by this, that's probably my favorite show or the best show I've been to. It's hard for me to say because I've been to quite a number of shows over the years, but they were so loud. They were deafening loud. The bass was so loud and booming. Danny Carey's kick drum, you could just feel the whole arena just shake every time he hit it. And then the whole night was just such a fun time. It was actually pretty refreshing too. I know Tool has kind of been under fire over the past few years of having a pretty strict no recording policy at their shows, but honestly, I kind of really like it looking back at it because it forces people to engage with the show in person instead of through their screen. I know a lot of people don't like that when I say that or when other people say that, but I personally don't have an issue with it, and it made it worth it to me personally. If I don't get to see Tool again, it is what it is because I at least got to see them once, and I got to hear them play Jambi and Rosetta Stone, which was awesome. Yeah. And finally, for show number 5, this one happened earlier this year in June, late June. I went to Denver to go see Metallica at Mile High Stadium, and I had been wanting to see them for a very, very long time because they were definitely one of those, like a lot of people, one of those gateway bands of getting me into metal. And if you've watched any of my guitar-related videos over the past few years, you'll know that I love Metallica. I know it's considered like not cool to like them as a metalhead, but I really don't care. I still love them. It was also a really special time too for me because I went on the night that Pantera was also touring with them with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante, replacing Diamond Vinny. And they were awesome. I thought they were so loud. They were louder than Metallica too. And it was a special gig for me personally because they were one of those few bands where I know every single song, and I just loved every second of it. I didn't get the chance to see them, or not get the chance, but I didn't really take the time to go see them on their tour, their own headlining tour outside of the Metallica tour. But honestly, I'm fine with that. I mean, I got to see them at least once. I know it's not the same as with Diamond Vinny, but realistically, I wasn't expecting it to be. I mean, I have a few issues with it, but that's a whole other discussion unrelated to this video. But the whole night was fun. Suicidal Tendencies opened the show, and they were really good. My only thing I would say, I wouldn't even say it's a critique or a complaint, but really the only thing I would say is I probably would have enjoyed Suicidal Tendencies more if I saw them in a smaller venue, like a smaller, more intimate venue, as opposed to, a football stadium, which it was still cool to see them in a big-ass show like that. But I don't know, something about it just made me feel like maybe if there was less people here and not as crowded, maybe I'd like it a little more. But they were awesome regardless. And then Metallica themselves were freaking great, as I would have expected. Metallica played about 2 hours. Yeah, about 2 hours. And they had a few surprise songs that I wasn't expecting. They started with Whiplash, which was a nice surprise for me personally. I'm not the hugest fan of Kill 'Em All. I know that's kind of like sacrilege to a lot of hardcore Metallica fans, but out of the classic albums, that one's probably the one I've listened to the least. And it's not a bad album. I like it, but it's just I've spent the least time listening to it, if that makes any sense. They played Whiplash. They played Call of Cthulhu, which was a huge surprise to me because Ride of the Lightning is actually my favorite Metallica album. And it still is to this day. I go back and forth between that and Injustice for All. It's hard for me to choose. But they also played some stuff on... was it... No, it was Reload. They played The Memory Remains, which was really cool. The only complaint I had with that show was... I know it's kind of been a tradition for the past few years that they do, but Kirk Hammett and Rob Trujillo, they... depending on the city they're playing out, they'll come out and, like... they call it like the doodles, and I've seen a number of them on YouTube, and most of them I'm not huge on, but since it was in Denver, they played John Denver, which I guess was cool, but it just felt more like karaoke to me. But regardless, the show itself was awesome, and I would totally do it again if I ever get the chance to, But you guys let me know what your guys' favorite shows you've been to are. Drop a comment. If you like the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. What's the other thing? Click the bell notification. That way you get notified every time I upload a video. And I hope to see you guys sooner than later. You guys take care.